This week brings integration and forward motion as Mercury prepares to move direct, and the first quarter moon in Pisces encourages us to act with trust and clarity. Welcome back to Libra Rising, where guidance from the stars meets reflections for the soul. Let's get into the astro weather for the week. On November 28th, the first quarter moon rises in Pisces. First quarter moons are action points, the moment when seeds planted at the new moon face their first test. With Pisces energy, this is about balancing faith with discernment, acting on intuition, but staying grounded in reality. On November 29th, Mercury finally stations direct in Scorpio. After weeks of revising, reflecting, and rethinking, forward momentum begins to return. It may take a few days for Mercury to pick up speed, but this clears the way for conversations, plans, and insights to move ahead with clarity. Together, these transits invite us to integrate what has been learned and take the next step with trust. For further insights, let's turn to the tarot. This week's 3-card spread follows the rhythm of the first quarter moon, showing us a challenge, a lesson, and a gift to guide us forward. For the challenge, the moon appears, highlighting uncertainty, illusion, and the fog of not knowing. This card reminds us that clarity isn't always immediate. Sometimes the path unfolds step by step. For the lesson, Temperance comes forward, urging balance, patience, and integration. It teaches us that harmony is built not by extremes, but by steady consistency and trust in the process. For the gift, the Empress reversed emerges. Though reversed, she offers the wisdom of self-nurturing. The gift is realizing where we've overextended ourselves and reclaiming the care and creativity that can restore our vitality. Together, these cards remind us that while the way forward may not be fully clear, balance and patience holds the key. By tending to ourselves first, we gain the strength to act with trust and compassion. I'd like to share my own reflections on how these energies are showing up for me as a highly sensitive soul. This past Mercury retrograde really slowed things down for me, more than I expected. It opened with classic burnout, low momentum, heavy fatigue, and thick brain fog. Normally, my big Gemini brain would kick into overdrive and try to drag the rest of me along by sheer force of will. But this time, I didn't let it. Instead of fighting the slowdown, I leaned into it. I let myself move at a snail's pace. I let the brain fog exist without turning it into a problem. And I gave myself real permission to rest. Not as a reward, not as a failure, but as a peace offering. For years, my body and spirit would quietly voice a need for rest and recovery. And for years, every yawn, every tight muscle, every moment of blurry focus got bulldozed by demands from my non-stop mind. In my youth, I could ignore all that and bounce back in a few days. As I've gotten older, that ability to bounce back has diminished, sometimes vanishes altogether. Through the healing journey that eventually inspired Libra Rising, I've learned a hard truth. So much of my imbalance and dis-ease came through trying to force performance out of a body and spirit that were running on fumes. Since the summer solstice, I've been practicing something new, softening the demands of my mind and listening more closely to my body and spirit. So when fatigue started whispering and my motivation dipped as Mercury turned retrograde, I was ready. And I quieted the arguing of my ego-centered mind long enough to actually hear the messages underneath. Now, as Mercury prepares to station direct this week, I feel a different kind of pull. Not the frantic push to catch up, but an invitation to integrate what the slowdown revealed. The moon card fits this perfectly. It highlights the exact place where I tend to get tangled up the most, trusting the process when I can't see the whole path ahead. Temperance echoes that message, asking me to blend what I've learned slowly rather than ricocheting back into old extremes. And the Empress reversed calls me out gently but unmistakably. If I'm drained, if my creativity flickers, it's not a moral failing. It's simply a sign that nurturing myself needs to come first. This retrograde showed me exactly where I've outgrown old patterns of self-neglect, and where my new boundaries and slower rhythms are already creating space for something more honest, sustainable, and alive. As the energy picks up again, I want to move forward with the same clarity, less force, more faith. As Mercury turns direct and momentum begins to rise again, I'm focusing less on sprinting forward and more on staying aligned, moving with the truth rather than with the pressure. As an invitation for your own reflections this week, consider the following prompts for journaling or meditation. First, how can I move forward even when certainty hasn't fully arrived? And where in my life am I being called to nurture myself first? As an anchor to ground and recenter this week, carry the following mantra. I let go of fear that uncertainty means I am lost, and I hold faith that balance and self-care light the way forward. Thank you for joining me for this week's Libra Rising forecast. If this reading resonated, I'd love to hear how these energies are showing up for you. Share your reflections in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me next week as we continue the journey. Until then, may you see through the fog, may you walk with balance, and may you remember to tend your own soil.